The subject of natural medicine is something quite important to me and close to my heart. I've been interested and involved in herbalism since my earliest days, both in the Western tradition and then after I was initiated as a Sangoma some 35 or 36 years ago, increasingly into the African tradition. And one of the things that has always been significant to me is the efficacy of natural medicines, especially in my case with respect to herbalism. And something that always gave me a lot of information, hope and possibility was a journal that was published in South Africa some 20 years ago called the South African Journal of Complementary Medicine, that became the Natural Medicine Journal and became the most incredible resource of relevant, objective, good writing on existing and new natural therapies, as well as related fields like nutrition and even beauty. For a long time I've known the editor and publisher, Daleen Totten, who has been behind it practically since the very beginning. So I was delighted to see Daleen spreading her publishing ventures into the world of streaming television. And she's been interviewing people and she produces great videos about natural medicine and other things. And so I jumped at an opportunity to go and visit her at her Franschhoek premises on a farm in beautiful Franschhoek, where I could talk to her a little bit about Natural Medicine Journal and where it's going now, and a lot about natural medicine and what she's learned and discovered and seen over the years. And she got a chance to talk to me for her show. So I luckily was privileged to talk to her in her beautiful studios on the farm, made it feel like my own. So Daleen, firstly, thank you for having me at this amazing place.
You're
it's
welcome.
really been so great. I'm going to move in.
You're
and
welcome.
use your studio here.
We'll have an exchange. I'll have a
Yes.
weekly reading.
I think that we might be able to come up with a plan. But actually, you know, we go back a long way, and you go back a very long way in the journey of natural medicine in this town, in this country. And I think I first came to know you through the South African Journal of Natural Medicine.
Maybe even before that, with the Complementary Medicine Journal.
Oh, that's
which was
true.
its forerunner.
Was that the forerunner? So yeah, that would have been then. One of the things for me that always struck me from the very beginning with those publications was that it seemed to be the first time I was seeing someone handling complementary medicine and natural medicine in a way, I'll call it mainstream, but also that elevated it above the kind of popular or new age or whatever we want to call it, and started giving it the respectability that any system of medicine really deserves. So how did you become involved in publishing that? Was it just let's do this, or was it a bit of a battle?
It was a journey. It was an unbelievable journey. I actually went to Hawaii 26 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was introduced to complementary medicine. I walked into a health food store. We didn't have that here. And I was given spirulina and acidophilus, and we didn't even know what that was.
Wow.
And I blessed a Buddhist temple with, Dalai Lama, and I didn't even know who that was. So it was quite an expansive journey for me.
Yes.
And I came back knowing that I wanted to do something in the field of health, but I didn't know what. Do I do massage therapy, or do I make the oils, or do I have a health shop that sell the oils? I didn't know. And I sought out a medical doctor that used complementary medicine, and that was Dr. Brom. Especially after my first child, and I didn't want to use any drugs.
Right. So was he your doctor, or you heard about him?
I heard about him.
Because I've interviewed him on the show.
He's
and
phenomenal.
He's remarkable.
What an
Truly
amazing
is.
person, such a special human. So I chose every Friday afternoon, the last appointment, so I could just talk to him,
Yes.
and we shared similar interests, philosophy and so on. And one day he came to me, one day when I went to him, he was a little bit down, and Dr. Brom, as you know, he doesn't have mood swings, he's never down.
Deeply philosophical, he
Yes.
gets it, yeah.
So I asked him, what's wrong? And he just said, my publisher put my journal back in his lap saying I've got bigger fish to fry. And at that time, during that specific week, I was studying philosophy, and my exercise for the week was to respond to a need as it arises without any desire for a result for myself.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to burn karma.
Exactly. and throughout the whole week, every time I wanted to say, this is it.
Yeah.
No, but there is something in it for me. So this was it. I looked at him and I said, well, I'll help you. Thinking a journal is a diary.
Right.
His little entries in his diary, I'd love to publish that. Right. And then he gave me the Complementary Medicine Journal.
So magazine publishing has been notoriously difficult in this country. Wasn't that taking on an impossible task?
Not then.
Really?
Not then. I mean, we had Monica Farrell's magazine, Pathways to Health. And we had Rose de la Hunt as the editor of Odyssey.
Yes, she had been around for a long time.
And they were both incredible mentors, and both publications were so inspirational to me. But I wanted to really be successful, and I remember looking at something like a Shade magazine and just looking at all the staff and sitting crying, thinking I could never do this.
But you did. So. And the response?
Phenomenal. Not in the beginning though, because the publication was a medical journal. We published pages and pages of clinical trials and references. Yes, so it was a medical journal, but I wanted to get to the people. And when the medical professionals were not subscribing and the advertisers were not really getting feedback from the medical doctors and ordering their products, I realized I'm going to need to do something drastic here. And then I changed it from publishing a quarterly medical journal distributed free of charge, 5,000, to medical doctors at random, to actually make it more reader friendly and go directly to the reader so the reader can get to the practitioner. So get to the doctors through the reader, which really worked. And I remember very clearly that in the second publication, the subscriptions from medical doctors tripled.
Wow.
Because their patients went to them with the magazine saying, why didn't you prescribe a probiotic when you gave me that antibiotic? And look at what your peers are writing, because the articles were written by medical doctors objectively. So
actually that means you had a direct impact on the medical industry.
I hope I did, yes.
Well, certainly the subscriptions would have been a way to show that. So, obviously complementary medicines, alternative medicines, they've always been seen as a little bit fringe, but over the years I think they became more acceptable and more popular. Certainly probiotics actually eventually entered the mainstream, and now almost any doctor is going to prescribe them. Have you seen the same happen with other therapies, practices becoming more acceptable?
Yes, it used to be... Sorry, my dog is chasing a fly.
Oh, it's okay.
Actually, the same kind of surge I saw in the awareness and the use of complementary medicine, natural medicine, by the man in the street wanting to take their power back. I see the same thing happening with energy medicine now, light therapy, and just the awareness of a much more sacred form of healing, not the very masculine cut and surgery and burn and radiation and chemo, but a much bigger awareness in energy medicine and light medicine.
So is there any backlash?
Yes, there's a backlash. There's always a backlash, but I think it's more difficult now because of the scientific research and the tools we have to measure the effect of light therapy, of magnetic therapy, of energy medicine. I mean, the Germans, for example, they are very progressive when it comes to energy medicine. I remember in the beginning we had the Vega, we had bioresonance, we had the BESS system, we had the Listen machine. So it's come a long way from then.
So one thing that has, I think, also happened though in the same time is that natural remedies have been increasingly regulated. We've seen that in Europe and the States, and I think more and more here.
Yeah.
So is that not a pushback? I mean, how does that balance against the fact that things are becoming more accepted?
It's a big pushback. I think there's obviously a lot of money in complementary medicine, and there's a lot of groups that want to stop the progression and want to control what people use. And in some instances, they have reason. And we all want to regulate our industry.
Yeah.
We're not against regulations.
Because we want quality.
We want quality. We want good GMP practice. We want to know that our herbs come from somewhere where it wasn't excessively sprayed, and that the extraction method is correct and everything is clean and so on and so on. It's not adulterated. You don't get extra fillers and things added to your product, and your standardization is there. You want all that. But you don't want to be told what you can't take.
Exactly. And also, I mean, there are potential issues as to who gets to then control that.
Yes.
So if it's done by an industry that's looking for money, or if it's actually in the interests of complementary medicine itself.
Yeah.
So I do know, though, that the journal itself has evolved over the years, and recently you made a big change that kind of has brought us here. Do you want to tell us about that change?
Yes, I just decided that I want to no longer continue my work in print, but I want to have a video platform where you can keep it real. You can get my old readers really get to know the person behind the article. It's just a far more dynamic platform, and it's instant. And we all want instant gratification right now.
It's become the world.
That's it. Yeah.
And presumably it's more cost effective.
It is, and it's global.
Yeah.
I couldn't print 100,000 magazines in America ever.
Yes, yeah. And then have to sell them all.
Yes.
To actually get you all. So I'm sure over the years you've seen, let's call them many trends, come and go with respect to health and healthy lifestyles and so on. And a couple of weeks ago I interviewed Garth Tavares. He's known as Cape Town Vegan on the internet.
Nice.
And we spoke about vegan food, and because he reviews vegan restaurants and what's available at regular restaurants and so on. And we have definitely seen an increase, a surge, if you like, of interest in veganism. Is it a fad? Is it a craze? Does it resemble those kind of things that you've seen before, or is something actually changing?
I think it's a consciousness. I think it's an awareness. I'm a really big fan and student of energy medicine and of vibrational medicine and metaphysical studies. And for me, that is an absolute sign of the times.
So it's going to increase. I mean, is there going to be a world where people don't eat animals one day?
Never.
Never.
Never. There'll always be people who would eat animals. But it's just if you are a conscious, aware, spiritual human being, you don't need to be necessarily vegan.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody's unique in their body's needs. But I think just the awareness of the mass production and the overkilling of animals would advance us in our consciousness.
Yes, because I think a lot of the issue of veganism nowadays is about factory farming. It's not about the animals per se, and we're not suggesting that people are naturally herbivores and shouldn't be eating it or whatever. But it does seem to be a kind of a consciousness shift of some kind. Is there anything else that you would say, that's the obvious one, is there anything else that you can see because of your work that's beginning to become known and that might be the next conscious wave?
What excites me is young students seeking raw food bars and juicing. The students at university, because I have two children at university, my stepson and my daughter went through university, just a change, in no longer a burger and Coke, but rather a raw juice or a wrap. So I definitely see that.
What I like about that is that if they're the students, then they're the next generation.
Yes.
They're going to be bringing up their kids like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's also what I know about even my clients. I've been doing my astrology long enough that I now have people coming to see me that I first saw when they were just born. And what I'm discovering is that people are bringing up their children with this greater awareness that you should consult astrologers or whoever, that you must enlarge your options.
Yeah.
A lot of people worry that the world of today, it's all selfish, entitled, social media-based youth. But I think that might be too small a picture.
Yes,
that there's also a
definitely.
lot of consciousness that has arisen out of social media and things.
I remember when you were young, you used to be an activist, and you would go and march.
Yeah.
And now you've got social media, and you can lend your voice to that.
Yeah, and it is very effective. So I think that certainly made a big difference in terms of what people eat and their awareness of veganism, of GMO foods, of all of those kind of things as well.
I mean, my teenage daughter, she's 17, and her awareness of sustainability is mind-blowing. And she refuses to touch a straw. You cannot give her anything in a restaurant, she will not take that straw, which is wonderful to see.
Which is wonderful to see. I went to a restaurant last night. I got a full glass of ice with a straw. So I sent the ice back. Said, please put this ice where it can be used as water and stop giving people all this ice. Ask them if they want an ice cube or two, if you have to give someone ice. So he takes the ice, he puts it in another glass, and then he comes back with a new glass that's now got no ice and another straw. So first I've got to educate them about ice, now I must educate them about straws. So it does seem sometimes we have got a long way to go, but I do hope and trust that that's happening in the youth. But you talk about the global reach that this allows and that perhaps social media also relate to. But, I was in India recently where they don't eat meat.
Please tell us about that. I'm sure we all want to know about your journey.
Well, the important thing to me, I've been to India more than once, is, for me as a largely vegan, sometimes vegetarian, it's paradise. Because you can go to a restaurant, not know what it is that you're ordering, and not have to worry that it's somebody's eyeballs or something that you didn't understand the language. So there's always a great delight. But the thing to me that is so striking about India, and I think that would be important to all of us, is that the spirituality of life is so in everybody's life, in their everyday lives. So if you're driving or walking along, you come across a little shrine in the street that someone's put there. I was in the busiest street in Calcutta, and I noticed flowers hanging on one lamppost. So I stopped and got out, and it was someone who'd made a little offering to give thanks for something. And it's that freedom and that the nature of relating to spirit all the time, it gives a very different feeling. And people talk about poverty and noise and smells and all of those kind of things. But, that's all humanity, and spirituality is also humanity, and that rises above it all. What disappointed me, or what a little bit, I don't want to say upset is too strong a word, but what was the challenge this time is that I can see so much globalization has affected India.
Oh, no.
At the beginning of the 2000s, one of my astrology gurus there said to me, satellite TV has just come to India, and now I'm terrified we're going to lose our culture. And now, nearly 20 years since he said that to me, I can see that in India. I mean, they've always had Coca-Cola and McDonald's even, which serves chicken or beef apparently. But now you can see how much of the traditional life has broken down, and how it's a lot more like modern life almost anywhere.
I have to just say, have you seen the movie After the Flood? The documentary Leonardo DiCaprio? What upset me so much is that over 70% of the population in India use biomass, cow dung, as their source of heat. But they all want to be like the westernized world. They want coal, they want their TVs, they want all their electrical appliances. So when we try and taper down on our use of electricity, the rest of the world is increasing.
That and all the fossil fuels. I mean, sometimes I would wake up in Calcutta and it smells like a Cape Town fire. There's no fire at all, but it smells like the mountain is burning. And it's just the smoke pollution first thing in the morning.
That is sad.
So that is sad and that is challenging. But India's always been this land of extreme contrast. And we were talking about how the readers of the journal and the viewers of your show that it's become all represent this changing consciousness that's happening, and that at the same time encompasses everything about human consciousness. And I think that's what we see in India all the time. It reminds us of that all the time. But India reminded me that we mustn't lose our traditional cultures and our traditional knowledge. You talk about how natural medicines we now have better measuring equipment and better scientific ways of demonstrating their efficacy. But we mustn't lose sight of the fact that people 2,000 years ago knew about those same medicines and they didn't have equipment.
Exactly, and the sad thing about our country is that traditional African medicine is not even recognized, never mind regulated or able to register it.
Yeah, it's in this grey zone that no one knows what to do with.
Right, and that to me is sad.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, they have tried a few times to regulate it, but they're also regulating it, they tried the wrong way. They tried to fit it into the Western paradigm as a way of...
Treat it like a drug, which it's not. It doesn't work like a drug.
No, drugs have these isolated ingredients. But still, we've always got more to learn about that. And in terms, healing and medicine are things very close to my heart because I'm a Sangoma. And that's why, for years, knowing you, I read those journals. I'm so excited about your show. It's incredible that we've got that on our own local streaming TV. It's just great.
And it's wonderful to have you on our show.
Well, the internet has empowered us all to get the message out there. So we can talk about how pharmaceutical companies might be trying to own herbal and natural medicines, but we've now ended up in a world where no one can own information anymore. Yeah. It's too late. Everyone's got it.
That's it.
And that's what our blowback is going to be. And we rely on people like you to help us with that.
Thank you.
So this is a great big move. What's the next step for you?
Global, and offering people a platform where they can obtain the products they need at the click of a button. So that we will plug an online shop into this video platform. And then have little video clips about the origin, tracking the whole production of the products right through from the soil, the seed, the tree, to the marketing team doing the labels, the bottling, and then on the shelf, and how this product competes with that one on shelf. And then from a medical practitioner point of view, or a nutritionist prescribing it, right through to the consumer.
Stunning. So I kind of feel a bit of hope. There's hope for us. And I do feel myself that this medium is going to make the hugest difference because, as you say, print just is hard to reach everyone.
That's right. But you also get the immediate feedback.
You do, which is so you can give people what they really need to know, what they really want to hear about. Yeah. So thank you for what you do. It's been great talking to you. Tell us how to find the show.
Nutmedworld.com. Naturalmedicineworld.com.
And then they can find the show and other resources that you've got there for them.
Yes, it's all on there.
Certainly. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me at your beautiful place.
Thanks for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure. We'll do it again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daleen. Natural Medicine World website is a great resource for articles, for reviews, and to actually purchase natural products as well. Excellent articles in a huge variety of categories that really give you good information by good authoritative authors, as has been the practice in the print publication for the last 20 years. So definitely go there and take advantage of it. And also, of course, check out their Facebook page where you can find articles, links to articles, and other resources as well. Well, you might remember a few months ago now me saying that I wasn't going to make any predictions about the drought, and that astrologers don't make predictions about droughts and about the weather. And of course that's not really entirely true. It's more like astrologers today don't and rarely would, because we have meteorologists these days who have much better tools. Astrology was originally created partly by watching the sky full of clouds and weather, as well as the stars in the earliest of days, watching how things happened in the sky. And it wasn't surprising that astrologers could talk about the weather back in those days. A lot of those techniques have fallen away. But lately, more and more radio stations have been asking me about the drought, using those techniques as best as I can. And as I say, they're not that easy in modern times to get right. So it's not nearly as reliable as the astrology I'm used to. But from what it would seem at that time, that we get during April and May, Cape Town will have thunderstorms and sort of strange thunderstorms full of promise, but not that much rain, just like we saw in 2017, especially in one big one that year. Well, a couple of those. but rain itself only more reliably from June, and then somewhat heavier rain from September, which is very late for Cape Town. So the midwinter rains or early winter rains for June and July and then into August will be the same-ish as 2017, not a radical improvement. But then in the later part of winter, rain will continue into the spring period. So that's hopefully what we've got to look forward to. As I say, weather astrology, it's not so reliable, just like weather prediction of any kind. That one might just be up to the cosmos, the powers that be, the earth itself. But anyway, so make sure you join me on Friday as usual.